In today's story, I want to share something deeply personal. Not because it's easy, but because sometimes the truths that hurt the most are the ones that finally set us free. Have you ever looked at your own reflection and wondered when your life stopped feeling like your own? That thought hit me on one ordinary Thursday morning. I remember the sunlight slipping through the blinds, landing on my face just enough to reveal the tiredness behind my eyes. I stared into the mirror. Same woman, same worn-out smile. But something about her felt unfamiliar. Her eyes looked like mine, but they seemed empty, as if the person inside had stepped away years ago. From the outside, everything looked fine. A stable marriage, 2 healthy kids, a simple home in the quiet outskirts of Portland. The kind of life that looks perfect in photos, but inside, something was slowly fading. A quiet unraveling no one else could see. My name is Claire Ellison, and once I thought I had everything figured out. I believed in order, in doing the right things, keeping to the right habits, saying yes when I should. I thought if I kept showing up, everything would fall neatly into place. It didn't. Aaron, my husband, was a good man. The kind of man who fixed things before they broke. Reliable, steady, predictable. He loved routines, lists, and paying bills early. And once I loved that about him. But love changes shape when time wears it down. After 12 years of marriage, what we had wasn't a flame. It was a soft, quiet ember, still warm, but barely glowing. We didn't argue much. We didn't talk much either. We just moved around each other like 2 planets, held in a pole. We didn't know how to break. It wasn't unhappiness that unsettled me. It was emptiness. That still heavy silence that grows between 2 people who once reached for each other but forgot how. Some nights I would lie beside him, eyes open in the dark, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, wondering, does he feel this too? This quiet ache of being together yet completely alone? I never asked. Maybe I was scared of the answer. Then one day, someone new walked into my office. Julian Hart, a freelance illustrator with a bright mind and an easy, warm smile. The kind of person who carried a gentle calm in the way he spoke, listened, and moved. When he joined our creative team, I didn't think anything of it. Just another project, another name, another polite introduction. But something about him felt awake. He had this relaxed confidence, like he wasn't rushing through life. And when he laughed, soft, natural, real, people listened. His eyes were soft, gray, the kind that didn't just look at you, but seemed to pay attention to who you were. At first it was nothing, just simple conversations, work-related moments. But deep down, I felt something stir. A quiet spark of curiosity I hadn't felt in years. One afternoon, after a long meeting, he glanced at me and said, "You always seem to hold everything together, don't you?" Such a simple sentence, yet it hit harder than it should have, because no one had ever noticed how much it cost me to keep everything steady. And that was how it began. The smallest spark in a life I thought had gone cold. Julian never tried to impress me. He didn't flirt, he didn't push, he just noticed things. Small things most people overlooked. He asked about the songs I loved, not the popular ones, but the ones I played on long drives when I felt overwhelmed. He asked about books I once treasured, about places I dreamed of visiting before life became a checklist. For the first time in years, I felt someone was listening, not to my words, but to me. At first, I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just friendship, just kind conversation between coworkers. But I already knew the truth. When attention becomes the air you've been missing, even a small breath feels like relief. Every time we talked, something inside me softened. He had a way of making quiet moments feel safe. Meanwhile, Aaron had grown quieter. His attention was on work, his phone, responsibilities. Our conversations had turned into tasks. Did you buy groceries? What time is the meeting? The faucet is leaking again. No warmth, no spark, just management. We were 2 people handling a life, not living it. One evening after the kids were asleep, I tried to reach out. "You ever feel like we're just existing?" I asked. Aaron looked up from his laptop, puzzled. "What do you mean?" I paused. "I don't know. I just feel tired." He gave me a small smile. "We're all tired, Claire. That's just life." Then he kissed my forehead gently and went back to typing. That was it. No real interest, no follow-up, just the easy answer of someone who didn't see the slow unraveling happening right beside him. That night, I learned something painful. You can be loved and still feel invisible. The next morning, Julian stopped by my desk with a warm cup of coffee. "You look like you could use this," he said with a soft grin. I wanted to tell him not to be kind because kindness, when you're starved for it, feels like a doorway. But I just smiled. "You have no idea." It wasn't flirtation. Not yet. It wasn't flirtation. Two tired hearts quietly admitting they were carrying more than anyone knew. After that, everything shifted slowly, gently, quietly. I began watching the clock, waiting for the next meeting, the next chance to talk, the next small escape from the dullness of routine. I told myself it was harmless. Everyone needs connection. Everyone needs connection. Everyone clears throat wants to be seen. But I already knew the truth. When you start needing someone else just to feel awake, you're already drifting from yourself. It began small. A shared joke during a long meeting. A late message about work that slid into personal thoughts. A moment of laughter that lasted a little too long. Each piece seemed innocent alone, but together they formed a thread I couldn't ignore. Julian had this way of making ordinary moments feel meaningful. When he looked at me, I felt seen, not as a wife, a mother, or an employee, but as a person, and that was dangerous. One late evening, we stayed back to finalize a presentation. The office was empty. The heater hummed softly. He leaned closer to explain something on my screen, and I felt my pulse rise, not from attraction, but from the sudden reminder that someone was paying attention to me. He stepped back, voice quiet. "Sorry." "It's okay," I whispered, though my voice shook more than I expected. That was when I realized how fragile control becomes when loneliness lasts too long. After that, everything changed, even the silence. We didn't talk about that moment. We didn't need to. The air between us carried everything unspoken. I started dressing with a little more care. Small changes, nothing obvious. Telling myself it was for me, even though I knew who I hoped would notice. Aaron noticed too, but not the way I wished. "You've been distracted lately," he said at dinner. "Something going on at work?" I smiled too fast. "Just a heavy project." He nodded, trusting me completely. And that trust hurt more than anger ever could. A week later, after another long day, Julian offered me a ride home. The rain was steady, soft, blurring the world outside the windows. We talked about everything and nothing, about work, about life, about how strange it feels to wake up one day and hardly recognize yourself. When he parked in front of my house, I didn't reach for the door. The car was filled with quiet, the kind that feels like a turning point. "You don't have to pretend you're okay," he said softly. Something inside me cracked open. I wanted to say I was fine, but the truth felt stuck in my throat. I turned toward him, and in that gentle moment, I crossed a line, not with any touch, but with honesty I hadn't shared with anyone in years. The connection wasn't dramatic or bold. It was soft, emotional, and painfully real. And when the moment passed, I knew everything had changed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside Aaron, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of my choices settle over me. Guilt is strange. It's sharp and dull at the same time. It stings, then sits quietly and still beneath it. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Alive. Days turned into weeks. Julian and I never spoke about that emotional moment again, but every glance carried its shadow until the day Aaron found the messages. I had left my phone charging in the kitchen. He picked it up to check the time, and that was all it took. He scrolled. He read. He froze. When I walked in, I saw everything on his face. Shock, confusion, then something deeper. Understanding. "Claire," he whispered, "what is this? There was nothing to hide, no excuse to offer. The truth was already lit up on the screen between us." "I'm sorry," I said, my voice shaking. "Was it him?" I nodded. He didn't yell, didn't blame, didn't explode. He just went quiet. And that silence was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. At last he asked why, and I had no answer that could make sense. "Because how do you explain that you weren't trying to break anything? You just wanted to feel seen again." Aaron moved out a week later. No fights, no harsh words, just a man carrying a suitcase and a silence too heavy to lift. The house felt enormous without him. Every Clear's throat corner echoed with what we'd lost. The kids adjusted faster than I did. Children accept change in ways adults can't. I woke up each morning with the ache of what I'd broken. Julian tried to reach out. Messages, emails, gentle apologies, but I couldn't face him. Whatever we shared wasn't love. It was escape. And now it felt suffocating. Eventually, the messages stopped. And just like that, the chapter ended quietly. Months passed. I started therapy. At first, I just went through the motions, answering questions without feeling, sitting in silence that felt too honest. But slowly, I began peeling back layers I didn't know were there. One day, my therapist asked, "When did you stop showing up for yourself?" The question hit harder than I expected. Maybe it was the day I stopped writing, or the day I convinced myself that being a good wife and mother meant ignoring every part of me that wanted something more. Maybe it was each quiet night I chose peace over honesty. I didn't stop loving Aaron, I just stopped loving myself. And when you step out of your own life long enough, you reach for anything that reminds you you're still here. It's been almost a year since everything fell apart. Aaron and I talk now, careful, respectful. We meet for family dinners once a week. There are still cracks between us, but there's also understanding, a gentle peace that comes from accepting the truth instead of hiding from it. Sometimes when he looks at me across the table, I see the man I married, the warmth, the humor, the easy comfort. But I don't confuse it with a promise. Some things can heal, but not everything returns to what it was. I live slower now. I take calm walks. I read again. I write even when it brings up old feelings. And I've learned that unfaithfulness isn't always about desire. Sometimes it's about absence, the absence of attention, of emotional safety, of recognizing yourself. You don't wake up one morning and decide to break your life. It happens quietly, one unmet need at a time. People think betrayal is a single moment, but really, it's a process. It begins long before the moment itself. In the silence, the distance, the forgetting. Looking back, I don't excuse what I did. I don't defend it, but I understand it now. Love can't survive on routine alone. Connection needs care, not assumption. Being good at life means nothing if you lose yourself inside it. Some nights I still wonder if Aaron will ever fully forgive me, or if I will ever fully forgive me, or if I will ever fully forgive myself. But maybe forgiveness isn't a finish line. Maybe it's simply choosing to keep moving forward, even when the past still echoes. Trying something new didn't give me freedom. It gave Clear's throat me truth. And truth, I've learned, is both the heaviest weight and the lightest thing to finally carry. This was Claire's story, but it's also a quiet reminder for anyone listening. Don't wait until you disappear from your own life to remember you deserve to be seen, heard, and valued. Sometimes the most dangerous silence isn't between two people. It's the silence you build inside yourself. Thank you for watching Silent Secrets. Until next time, take care of your heart and don't forget who you